Graham, good to see you again. A free week for you. How have you looked to use that on the training field?
Just trying to analyse last week's game and sort of highlighting the good things, especially in the second half when we got a real momentum about us and how that came about, how we created that, and looking a bit at the improving the first. Well, it's difficult, obviously conceding after 24 seconds, but I felt the first 20-25 minutes was really slow, playing in front of the opponent and safe, and we didn't really, I think, create an energy about ourselves until midway through the first half. So just trying to highlight to the players the contrast in both styles of play, what it creates and how we can start the games better, really. And then obviously getting out on the grass and trying to put it into action. That's what we've tried to do. The players have really tried to take it on board. You can see it in the training. But as I always say, it's about going and doing it in the game. And we've still got another day's training, which will be good. And go to the game Saturday looking to win the game.
How much of a benefit has it been this week to both you and Chris to actually have a full 3 week of training? Last week, obviously, getting to know players, saying hello, that's all in the past now. To have a concentrated week on trying to get your information across. Yeah,
I think what was important was we had a 90-minute body of work to work from. So it was like, the previous games that we've watched, we had no input on those. So we don't know what was really being asked of them, or what they'd done in training to go into the game. But last Saturday was the first time where we'd done 3 days of training, maybe 2 with a tactical element, looking at the game Saturday, and then we could see who could take it forward. How successful those 2 days were going into the game. So that gives us a clear idea of next week how we have to deliver the message, who takes on information really quickly, who needs a little bit more reinforcement, and so that for me is this week is just a step forward because of Saturday to work from, and there were good points in it. So first and foremost, we'll never hide away from the result, because I want the players to never hide away from a result either, because we're in a results business, and so I don't want us patting ourselves on the back because we played well for 20 minutes or did this or did that. If we didn't win, we need to win. So that's the biggest thing for me. But then there's ways of winning, and everything we do is trying to highlight to the players this is not for any specific reason apart from winning. That's it. This is the way we believe this group of players will win games. So that's an ongoing process, but then you need performances, results to sort of give the players extra confidence in the work they're doing.
Just to ask you on that word then, it's obviously 3 straight league defeats for this group, and you and Chris have come in partway through that. You've had time to assess them now. How is the confidence in the group?
I've not seen anybody not confident, to be honest. Like I said, I thought the first 20-25 minutes, I thought we were just playing easy passes that Barrow probably wanted us to play. Never really committed an opponent or committed to an opponent. We didn't play in an aggressive manner, in or out of possession. So it was almost like waiting to see what happened. I think I said that after the game, but certainly watching it afterwards again, I was quite validated in that opinion, I felt. But the players, I haven't seen anybody moping around the place, looking down, all the time. I think, when you come in as a manager, I think there's a fresh impetus for most players anyway, because it's sort of a reset for everybody. So, I believe I think they know that they've underperformed up until this stage of the season. I don't think there's many lads in there trying to convince themselves they've been anything differently, which is good, because I think you have to have a bit of honesty and accountability and a bit of humility to go, well, actually this isn't good enough for this club and for this squad. So that's refreshing. That's quite that gives me confidence that the players are ready to work and willing to work and try and improve. And so that for me is the biggest thing, really, is the willingness to put the work in.
As really interested by what you said after the game in terms of wanting the players to take more risks in the final third. And I remember when we first spoke, the way that you condense down having a strike towards goal is effectively just a pass in that direction.
Yeah.
Is that something you can coach into these players to take more risks and to effectively have more shots at goal?
Yeah, well, I would hope so. I'm in the wrong profession, you know what I mean? Because the way I see coaching that is, if the players were perfect, then we wouldn't have a job. So you know what I mean. So you've got to find those things to improve, and you've got to believe that you can make a difference. And I believe we have done it with players in the past. Ultimately, it's the player that takes it on and takes it into those situations. But I think there's a lot of pressure in football, and there's a lot of sort of spotlight on football, and mistakes are highlighted and talked about day in, day out, every minute, and social media and everything. And I think sometimes players can be a little bit averse to making a mistake, and then they play safe and they don't take that risk. That's how I see it. So what I'm trying to give the players is a license to play with risk, to make a mistake and just go, okay, you made a mistake, but you were trying to do the right thing. The thing of a perfect game does not exist. There's not a player that's walked on a pitch and walked back off it and not making a mistake. 100% in the history of football, if they played 90 minutes anyway. So just accept that that's going to happen sometimes. But if you go, well, I was trying to be proactive, I was trying to create something, or I was trying to do the right thing, that's fine. It's if it's a continual bad habit, then that's something we'll step in and say, no, look, that's not a mistake. That's actually something you're continually doing. And that's our job to recognise that and correct it. But in the final third, you have to play off intuition. You have to play off instinct. You almost go back to the playground when you just wanted to score a goal. You know what I mean? Don't worry about the risk of it not going right. That's what I'm trying to instill into the players and the team. There's decision making that we have to speak about and concentrate on in all the other areas of the pitch, and we will try to direct the players into the best chances of scoring or not conceding stuff. But go and enjoy playing football. And listen, if there's a player out there that doesn't enjoy scoring, then flipping hell, what are they doing? You know what I mean? So for me, that's it. Go for it a little bit more, and there'll be no recourse from me if you try to do the right things and be proactive.
I suppose the better question then to that point is, how easy or difficult?
It was a good question.
Oh, thank you. Well, to hopefully improve on that question is how do you impart that mentality then on players? Because as you say, it's one thing doing it, but as you well know, that the pressure and the expectation that comes with this football club to represent it, to have that mentality, that freedom, I guess, to take those risks. How easy or difficult is it to get that across?
Well, it's through trust, and it comes through time, because they've got to trust that you're going to behave in the way you act, the way you talk. So I could say all these things, and then someone has a shot from 25 yards, puts it over the bar, and I'm screaming at him for having a shot. Then my message is defunct and void. You know what I mean? And they go, you're full of crap, basically. Do you know what I mean? So they've got to understand that when they do that, well done, unlucky. You know what I mean? You try and do the right thing. So I know, for instance, I think I pulled Bobby Poynton up the other day when I was speaking to you guys, and Friday we actually replayed a clip of me on Thursday, jinking past someone, hitting a shot from about 22 yards. Doyle makes a save round the post, and we highlighted it and say, brilliant, proactive, aggressive. He had a chance on Saturday. He just about to pull trigger. You see him in his body language, and he pulled out of it and played it square to Jamie Walker, who then went wide, and we recycled it. And I think we ended up back to our centre half. So we highlighted that. What am I going to say? And I paused it and he said, shoot. There you go. And then he shot in training from similar distance. Doyle again made a save over the bar, but I started celebrating because he shot. So that was it, because they're talented guys. You know what I mean? And a shot is a pass. Someone coach of mine told me that years ago. Listen, because I was pretty good at passing the ball and everything, but then I still shot, but I was shooting in a completely different action to passing. It was almost like it was a different thing, and it wasn't. And then when he actually explained it to me, well, it's still a pass. It just calmed me down, gave me the composure to have that second just before you hit a ball, It was really, really good knowledge, and I've tried to pass it on to players and that. And but it takes time. It takes time, because that it might be a habit that players had for 8 years that he's not taking shots on. Now that's not the case with Bobby. He's only 19 or something. So, but with other players, it could be a really long-standing habit that you've got to try and break down. So, but like I say, I think the players have the talent to do that. It's having the intent to do it.
Joint third lowest scorers in the league right now. Do you see enough goals in this team?
I do, if they believe that they can score goals. That's what I mean. I made the point of us conceding first a lot more times than we've scored. We've actually took lead. We've actually scored more equalisers than we've actually took lead. So what does our intent to score then? Because we need to score. Does it then overpower the wanting to score? We've got to go out straight away. We need to score. We need to score. We need to score, and have that mentality, not a desperation, but that mentality. Go, no, we want to try and score straight away from minute one, and try and create that. So I think there's goal scorers in that team already. I think there's players that can improve that aspect of their game, but also it's not just the action; it's actually the positions they get in. It's where we deliver those crosses or those assists from. So it's not just the shooting action that we have to improve. It's actually, how do we get to these areas and create better chances for ourselves, because I know it's difficult scoring from 20, 25 yards, so I'm not asking the players just to be blasting balls from everywhere, but can we work the ball into high areas to actually get 8-yard shots, 6-yard shots and stuff like that. So there's definitely the ability to do it, without a shadow of doubt, but for me, everything starts in the mind, so we've got to start working on the mind.
In terms of players who are available to you, I'll start with the injuries that came from Saturday.
Yeah.
Liam Rydalls and Daniel Oyegoke, what are their situations now?
Yeah, they're both not available. Obviously, Liam will be out for a couple of weeks with his issue, because I think it's happened to him before with a concussion. So yeah, he will just go through the right protocols until he's ready. Dan had a scan on his collarbone or his shoulder, and we're still waiting for feedback from Bradford to whether that needs surgery, whether it doesn't, this, that, the other. So there's still an uncertain outcome for Dan, unfortunately, which is a real shame, because we liked what we saw in the first 3 days of being here, and I communicated that to him on Friday before the game, and when he got his chance, I thought he was looking good, but unfortunately picked up a really strange injury. But so we'll see. I think Brentford are really in the driving seat with that, and the player himself, because I think there might be a decision to whether to go through surgery or not.
In terms of that left-back position then, does that present an opportunity for someone, say, like Lewis Richards? Yeah, it does, yeah. I think every player's misfortune is another opportunity for someone else, and Lewis was another guy I spoke to on Friday about why I enjoyed seeing him train in the 3 days. So I pulled a couple of lads to encourage them about what they need to do to be in our team. Lewis was one of those. I think Kieran Kelly has played there before, and we've looked at him in training there as well. So there's a couple of options that we can go there. We could maybe change the shape if we needed to bring out the best in certain players in certain positions. So there's certainly options there for us. But yeah, obviously Liam won't be one of those. We've certainly got enough players to put 11 out. I was going to ask you about that, actually. I mean, so many players to assess, given the squad size. Are you and Chris getting our clearer picture of what the future will look like with this squad numbers and how you look to change shapes, maybe?
Not really, not after one game, I think, because I'm more of a game-related sort of judge of player and character rather than training. I'd rather go through games and look back at that, and I've made rash decisions or early decisions in my head, which have been proved wrong by giving the player time, or them getting an opportunity, and all of a sudden this player flourishes and you think, didn't see that coming. But opportunity sort of helps people. So there's still time for players to. So I'm actually holding back on judging a player too early. Listen, every day is an opportunity for a player to put a good impression or a bad impression. So we do see things that we don't like, but we try to correct them and help them and encourage them to do things differently or the way we want them done. But yeah, I think that's more of a time. Listen, by the start of January, when we get into the window, I would like to think that we've had enough games, enough sort of interaction with the players to understand who can help us go forward and who probably needs to move on. So, but I prefer to wait until that time to sort of come to those conclusions.
In terms of the longer absentees, Alex Patterson and Verdane Oliver, what are their situations?
Verdane's a little bit further on than Alex. I think Verdane's been stop-start with training with us. Been in for a couple of days, out for a couple of days. Then he's just come into the last 2 sessions, but managed, not full sessions. And then Alex sort of joined in today's, but that was really managed to only a 15-20 minute period. So because obviously I think he got injured and re-injured himself coming back. So I think there's a caution on everyone's side to not do that again. And it's something that we don't like doing with players anyway, taking unnecessary risks. So we believe every time we put a team out there, it's 11 players who couldn't run around for 95 minutes, rather than taking unnecessary risks. I think we've got enough good players to pick a good team. So, but these are proven players, good players, and the sooner we have them back, the better for the squad.
Do you have a time frame at all on either of those?
No, listen, I know diddly squat about injuries and stuff. So when the physios say they're ready, then I know they're ready.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Mark Truman. Obviously, was caretaker boss when you came in, and he wasn't in the dugout on Saturday. What's his position right now for you?
He was the eyes in the sky. So we when we've had coaches before, we've always liked somebody. Ideally, I'd love to do that one day. Actually, just sit up there and like the rugby coaches, and not get so involved and have a more analytical look on the game, because you do see a much clearer picture. But so I spoke to him on Saturday morning about it. Whenever we've had a coach, we felt it's just been me and Chris, we've missed somebody all there to relay information that we might miss. Certainly on the other side of the pitch when it's really hard to see from us. So I asked him on Saturday, because he'd been so integral to the training in the 3 days. He knew exactly what we wanted from certain positions, and I just asked him to keep an eye on those things that we'd worked on in Thursday and Friday. If it wasn't happening, to let us know so we can get the message straight on, rather than wait till half time, get that information. It's too late sometimes. So it's really important for us that. Sometimes we've had the coach down and Chris has done it. You know what I mean? For another time. So I think it's a really valuable tool for me as a manager to have somebody with a bird's eye view of the game.
Yeah. When we first spoke, you were due to speak with the owner, Stefan Rupp. Presumably that conversation's taken place. So just how was it speaking to him?
It hasn't.
It hasn't?
No, it hasn't, because the day went on so long with the whole media. It could have been. But no, it's probably my answers, mate, to be honest, as my wife keeps telling me. But it was it got too late in the day to do it, so I haven't had a chance yet. So unfortunately, but I think he's given us time to actually get our feet under the table and have something valid to talk about, rather than talk after day one. And it's like, I've not been here long enough. So I think the message I've got is let's get our feet under the table, let's get a couple of games in, and then have a good chat.
And just finally from me, obviously Notts County this week, and an opponent that's done well so far in League Two, in their own backyard, really. And you've obviously played them already as MK Dons manager. Does that give you any aid in terms of preparation, that you've seen them in that 90-minute period? Yeah,
I think so, because obviously managed the game against them already, so there's a bit of information there. But obviously I'm working with a different group of players, and different formation that we were playing down there. So there's differences in it, but seeing them for that one game, and I'd seen them a couple of times last season as well, to be fair. Before we were competing against them, just because they were doing good things, and I wanted to see what they were doing, really, to be fair, because you always want to try and keep your eye on what's coming up, and different styles and different players and everything. So they play a really interesting game of football, how they play. They've got really steadfast principles that they play by, and they've had success in what they've had, and what we spoke about when we played them previously this season, that they've become used to winning. And and they built up a real strong sort of trust and mentality within that group. We've had that previous at other clubs when we've won promotion and gone through, and you still have that momentum and that belief in each other and that trust and all those human sort of elements that create a winning team, and they've got it because it's been there for all to see. So it was no surprise. It's no surprise to see both teams that got promoted high up in the division, because they certainly have probably squads that were above the division they were in the National League, Wrexham and Notts County. and they've got that belief in each other. So it'll be a tough game, without a shadow of a doubt. I've managed a lot of games in the last 10 years. I can't remember many easy games in league football anyway. But I always believe that, you know, if we do our things right and we believe in ourselves, that's the biggest thing I've always tried to instill in our players. And whichever team I've managed, is every game is an opportunity to win. And for me, Saturday's no different.
Thanks, Graham.
Okay.
Graham, just Nathan from the team here. Bear with me, because this question is definitely about you, but it takes a bit of time to get there. So when I spoke to Mark Hughes when he was here, how did you go from coaching sort of UEFA Cup Blackburn or coaching Shaqiri and Boyan at Stoke to coming down to League Two? The fact that the vast majority of your body of work has been in League One and Two, does that help when it comes into a League Two Cup? They're not all the same teams, the same players, but having that experience at this level, does that give you an advantage knowing what it takes at this level?
No, I don't know, because it depends on the person. It depends on me and how much information I take on board. It depends how much information I want to discard as well. Because, you know, there's bad experiences in my last 10 years as well, so I don't want to carry all that around with me as well. So I think it depends on the person you are. You know, when I managed Fleetwood, my first full season, we won promotion there from League Two. I hadn't managed before, so where was my experience from then? You know what I mean? It was so I don't really go for that. I think it's more about your actual intelligence to judge a team, judge a player, get your message across, create a mentality that wants to win. So I certainly wouldn't put my experience above anyone else's. I do believe that you have to learn from both sides of the game, the defeats as well as the winning. But you've also got to realise that nothing you've done in the past will win you any points in the future unless you put actions into place. So it's no good trying to live off a CV or a reputation or anything like that, or your playing career. You know, you got no chance. You have to earn the right every single day. So I think there's managers that haven't had any playing career at all, or managerial career, and do good jobs. So I don't think there's any one way of being successful, to be honest.
No, that's a really good point, yeah. And obviously you mentioned potentially to Jamie there that Lewis Richard's an option, so is Kieran Kelly.
Yep.
And obviously on Saturday, once Liam and Dan went off, you had Gilly there and then Adam Wilson there. Obviously, I spoke to Gilly in the week and he said to me that if he wanted him to play there, he would definitely learn to play there. Obviously you said Wilson was just a bit of a hunch. Having seen the players, are there some that you might have seen where like, actually they could potentially play there, where we've maybe not seen them before? Do you look for that sometimes in play?
Yeah, I do. I think because I think you know, you have an idea of how you want the team to play, and the sort of style of play and what attributes you need in each position to do that. So we've had loads of players over the years where we've changed their position and playing there and just try to break down their. This is where experience can hinder you. Cause, I've only played in this position. I'm a number 5. Well, when did you decide that? When you were 8 years old? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Your skills, your attributes have actually drifted to this or drifted to that. So we tried to take the number off the back of play and actually look at what their attributes are, and then how they fit in our team. So yeah, so for instance, Gilly was someone that someone said on the bench. He's played there before, so I pulled him over and asked him, you know, and he was like, "No, I'll play there." Great attitude. In the second half, it's like we need a bit more width, natural width that's going to go on the outside. That's why I put Adam there and did a great job. We had most of the possession, so it's using the players' attributes to try and create a winning formula. So, but yeah, I don't go for this. He's been a centre forward all his life. That's all he can do, because I think it can negate their opportunities to play in the team.
We talked about Jerry talked about most of the players that are out or have been out for a while or not so long. We didn't mention Kev there. I'm sure he's a part of that any winning formula that you'd like to have gone for. I know he'd been ill and he had a bit of a twinge. How's Kev at the moment? Is he?
Yeah, he's not trained this week either, unfortunately. So I think he's going to be another week or so to see if he can get on the grass. He's with Dale now, but he's just doing light jogging at the moment, so he won't be in contention for Saturday, unfortunately. But I think, you know, expecting him to go from his period when he's not been playing and not even training to then all of a sudden full-blown 90-minute games or something is going to be too much for him. So we have to make sure that we're patient with him and get him up to speed in the right way. And he's in good hands.
Definitely, yeah. Of those players that are going to play 90 minutes or most of the game against Notts County, how exciting is it for them? Obviously, do you get that little buzz if you are on those sort of international breaks or rare occasions where they've got eyes on them? There's no Premier League, there's no Championship, there's a TV audience to play in Notts County. It's a game that will have they'll have far more eyes on them than they normally would. So from outside of the stadium, how can that give a team like a 5%, 10% boost, that excitement, or do you feel it's no different to any game at 3 on a Saturday?
No, I think it can add to it, but on the same side, it can add to both teams. So then it negates who gets the bonus of the 5%. I don't know. But I think every player, and I think I said this last week, I think every player, when you're 8 years old, 10 years old, when you think about playing football, you think you're playing in front of big crowds and maybe TV cameras and stuff like that, and then you get the opportunity. But I do, from my own experience of playing in the lower leagues, in small crowds, never televised, to then get into that sort of level, later in my career, that you have to forget about that side of it. You really have to focus on what you're there to do, and that's your responsibilities of what's needed to play in front for the team, how you have to overcome your opponent. So for me, all that stuff is pre-game. Seeing a camera, seeing the crowd, this, that, once the whistle goes, all that has to be put to the side and buried, because if you're only going to raise yourself for this game, then you're going to let yourself and your team down for a lot of other games this season. So, that's, for me, we're looking for consistency of, it should be the same in training. You should be maxing out in training. For me, every day's training, I want to be the best. I want to be the best I can be. So it's naturally into a game. So I know it's part of the build-up to a game and the emotions, and it's good, certainly if you win. But once the whistle goes, you've got to bury that sort of thought process, because it's distracting, because you're not focusing on what you should be.
Now, I watched the Notts County presser at lunchtime, and Luke Williams sort of said it's tricky, because he said we can look back at videos of Bradford City, but we probably won't tell him because Graham wasn't the manager then. Can you use that to your advantage? They might not be underprepared, but it's hard to prepare for you because you're going to bring something different, and if they watch all games back, you're probably not going to play that way.
No, it's a valid point by Luke. I think new teams, new managers, or something like that. So there's not a body of work when you analyse, but at the end of the day, I've still got the same group of players. Roughly, I was reasonably pleased with a lot what we saw last week. So there's not going to be mad drastic changes, but we are trying to improve and trying to tweak things. So I would like to think he won't know about those before Saturday, and I don't think that will be the case. So, but look, we have enough. I think every manager and coach has enough on the plate, making sure their team performs to the level that they need to do before the opponent starts throwing spanners in the work and stuff like that. So, but it's a valid point that he's made. We'll see how Saturday goes.
Just finally for me, Graham, it was a 23-minute press conference. You probably got a minute on City because there were about 15 minutes of questions about Oxford United. Now he was supposedly going to take that role. I'm sure you've been in that position in the past. How hard is it as a manager, and how distracting might that have been for Notts County and Luke Williams himself, when people are like, he's going to this place. Does that ever affect you going into a game when there's so much noise around you about something like that? Because that was the vast majority of questions were about what's going on with Oxford. In his Notts County presser.
Look, it's another distraction, isn't it? That's the thing. I'm talking about just there about the players concentrating on the game, and if you think about cameras, Sky, this, that, the other, you're not focused on your job. So, but I think if you've been in the game long enough, you learn to sort of try to park that noise when it comes down to game time and focus on your job. I'm sure Luke will do the same, but I think any professional, if there's people wanting you or talking about wanting you, it means you're doing a good job, and Luke's certainly done a fantastic job there. So, but you have to become used to the speculation and stuff like that if it happens to you, and understand not all of it's true. But he'll know more about that than me.
Cheers, Graham.
Okay.
It sounds like it'll be a huge December, Graham. You've got loads of games, and you're going to be assessing players, and there's going to be quite a bit happening in January.
Huge December, huge January, and we get into February, and that's huge, and then March gets a bit bigger. And what I was just saying there about consistency, I don't differentiate between the first game and the last game, and the first month and the mid-month. go into every game trying to win. That's it. But there's elements that you have to, certainly at this stage when it's mid-November, you're looking, certainly me coming in as a new coach, I've got to assess players really quickly to see who can carry us forward, because the window will be open and some players are aware of that as well. And I'm sure there's a couple of players in our squad that people might cover as well. That's the other thing that I'm not aware of yet. So all that stuff that goes on, and you're talking about December, and we're still in mid-November, so I'm going to focus on Saturday, because Saturday will be tough enough. But listen, all the things during the week, we look at these other things that we've got to plan for. And I've been having conversations with Ryan and Stephen Gent about potential in January. I said, but look, give us a few weeks so I can really assess the players that we already have.
I was on ideal last Saturday, but in terms of managers seeing players in adversity, that's useful. That's the right word, but you find out more about them, I suppose.
No, it's but listen, there's always going to be negative things happen, and it's how people respond to it and how we learn from those episodes and then put them into context and then move forward. So, like I say, that's why the games, you don't have the disappointment in training of a goal conceded after 24 seconds. You can't reenact that in training. So that's when it's a real, almost like a devastation. They're like, right, come on then, let's see what our character's like, our personality and everything. And I thought in general the players responded really well to it. It took a little bit of time, but I thought we did that well. And we'll have more occasions like that Saturday, next Tuesday, Saturday after, where we're learning bit by bit the group, each individual, and all of it is beneficial for us.
It's about seeing which players the shirt weighs heavy on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's I think there's an awful lot of players that want to get to professional levels, and there's an awful lot of lads that don't get to this level. Professional football that are super talented, fit, this, that, the other, but something's missing. What's needed to reproduce performances under pressure, 46, 50 games a season, it's tough. And you have to create a real strong mindset and a consistency in your behaviour to then create the consistency on the pitch, and that's as big a skill as any other skill you have in football. So, that's what we're trying to see, because if we want to be successful, it's over a considerable amount of time, not just 1 or 2 games.
Unless you find you're big on sort of stats, shots on goal, on target, that sort of thing.
It's all secondary to the biggest stat of all. Did we score more than the opponent? And that's the first stat that I deal with, and I always remind our teams and my players about that. Let's not hide from the fact that we're in a winning business and we have to win. But I do look at stats. I did it as a player into my own performance, and done it as a coach. It doesn't define your judgment on a player or your team, but it can sort of give you a bit of background to maybe your opinion or your thought, and highlight where you need to do better.
Thank you.
Graham, you mentioned we talked about the team last week.
Yeah.
You gave the example about Bobby Boynton earlier on, which was great. Is it a similar process to perhaps try and re-energise and help Andy Cook find his sort of best goal scoring form from last season?
Yeah, but I don't think that's that. I don't think that'd be me trying to get into Andy's head and convince him to try and score a goal. I think that's what he wants to do, and then I think on day one we had a little competition and he was the top scorer in that. So I don't think it's there. I think it's more the process of how our team creates the pressure, the momentum, the better chances for him to score. I think it looks like in certain games, and I haven't watched all the games, only a small amount. But he was quite isolated. I felt I think it was quite easy for the opposition to actually mark him, deal with him, actually go man for man, and let everyone else deal with things. So we're trying to create a way of playing where it frees him up a little bit, and we get better assist positions and opportunities for him to score from. And but certainly I don't think I need to work on his mindset about scoring. But listen, we all need a pat on the back, a little hug now and then, or a kick in the backside. It's whatever it works for each individual. So, but what I've had to do in training, I've seen him trying to take on board what we want. It's built around him being a centre forward, scoring goals, and so I'm sure it'll be no time that he'll be back to the form that he was in last season.
Kit, you're good.
Hi, Graham. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I forgot about you right in front of me there. The talking phone.
I've been here in spirit, I promise.
Okay.
Cheers. Just a couple from me. You talked kind of about, obviously, like kind of your longer term aims in the role, whether it's changing player behaviour or style of play, but then also kind of emphasise as well, of course, it's results business and the next Saturday's most important thing. So kind of, how do you balance those two things essentially? Do they go hand in hand, or is it kind of more of a balancing act?
Yeah, it's a balancing act, without a doubt. It's not, I'm not in there talking to the players about how we're going to improve and progress over the next 9 months. That 100%. I know that's not the reality of professional football. So it's, but I think every chance to win, or to play, is a chance to win. So we focus on that, but we have to understand that nothing is done overnight. So it's making those improvements as quick as possible, but as consistent as possible. Understanding that each player, there's players that have been here for a couple of years. There's players that have only just joined. So there's a lot of habits that players have that have been formed elsewhere, and you have to sort of align everyone together. So you're going to frustrate yourself and everyone around you if you think you can do that in 3 days or in a week. But you also have to work in a way where you can try and win the next game. So there is a balance and a speed about our work and how we try to progress. And you do try to marry them up, but you can't look too far ahead, because if you do and results don't go great, you're not going to make that progress anyway, because people lose confidence. Players lose confidence and everything. So, it's a hard balance to get, and I think it's getting harder because of the time constraints in professional football. But that's the lay of land, and we have to find a way of succeeding with it.
Yeah, how does obviously the specific situation at a club like Bradford, which is obviously massive amounts of attention for League Two and has had changes already this season, how does that specific situation kind of influence the objectives around long-term alignment that you have?
Look, I think my experiences have been quite different at several clubs that I've been at. So you try to understand each role and club for its own merits. But ultimately, you have to have a team that's good enough to win consistently to create success. That's it. I think if you've got a big stadium, or you've got a big crowd, or you've got unbelievable names in the team, or you wear a nice bright kit, or you've got sexy boots on, nothing gets you wins apart from having a good football team. That's the reality. I think I'll try to break it down to that. So what we have to do is create a winning football team from the players we have and any players that we potentially might bring in. But I think the pressure to win has always been there. Each club I've managed or each club I've played for, I've never gone to a club where winning hasn't been at the forefront of what people have been trying to do. So that's how I try to break it down here at Bradford. I think it's a club that has the support to be at a higher level, but you are where you are through merit in football. I think that's the amazing thing that English football has, certainly over the rest of the world, where you've got a pyramid where if you do the right things on a pitch, then you can play at whatever level you want to achieve, and vice versa. Just having all the money in the world and 70,000 fans doesn't guarantee you're going to be in the Premier League for the rest of your life either. And I think that's where people can maybe lose their direction or actually have false ideas of where a team or a club should be. You have to create a winning football team. There's no shortcuts of success. If your football team isn't winning, it doesn't matter what else you've got around it. So that's what I'm going to try and focus my energies on.
Thanks. And just lastly from me, obviously, again, you touched on this already. There are sort of similarities between Bradford and Notts County in the sense, kind of scale of the club, fan base, that sort of thing. obviously by saying that, you can say that Notts County kind of have to deal with that high level of pressure themselves in the way that Bradford do. Considering their position in the table and the success they're having, do they provide any sort of blueprint for you or anything that you can take from a Bradford perspective?
No, because I think it's different scenarios. I know I get the point of the similarities in size of the club and maybe history over 100 years or so. But if you look at recent history, maybe 10 years, Notts County have been in non-league for a few years, had a few really barren years. So coming up the way, like I said earlier, the momentum of winning for a considerable amount of time, maybe 18 months, puts them in a different position to Bradford City, where, you know, I was competing against Bradford at the top end of League One, trying to get into the Championship 5 years ago. So being wherever we are in League 17th, 18th and League 2 is not, you know, where we want to be. So there's a different sort of recent history, if you would say, you know, take the last 18 months, maybe 2-3 years. And I think, you know, because of football and everyone that's involved, you know, certain players and everything, they'll have been around for that 2 or 3 year period. So what happened at the club 50, 60, 70 years ago is irrelevant for the actual teams. So the difference there is, where we are in the league is not acceptable for a club the size of Bradford City. But if Notts County were in this position, potentially it wouldn't be as traumatic because of where they've been over the last 4 or 5 years. That's the difference. So each year there's more pressure or less pressure on each individual team. But I do get your point of the overall history of the two clubs is potentially pretty similar.